Alhamdulillah. Alhamdulillah wa kafa wa salatu wa salamu ala ibadihi allazina istafa. Khususan ala afdalihim wa khatamin nabiyyin Muhammadin al-amin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Amma ba'du faqad qala Allah tabaraka wa ta'ala kama warada fi surati al-Hashr. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم كي لا يكون دولة بين الأغنياء منكم وقال عز وجل في سورة المعارج وفي أموالهم حق معلوم للسائل والمحروم وقال جل وعلا كما ورد في سورة البقرة ويسألونك ماذا ينفقون قل العفو وقال عز وجل كما ورد في آخر سورة الحج فأقيموا الصلاة وآتوا الزكاة واعتصموا بالله هو مولاكم فنعم المولى ونعم النصير وقال جل وعلا كما ورد في سورة الروم وما آتيتم من ربا ليربو للناس فلا يربو عند الله وما آتيتم من زكاة تريدون وجه الله فأولئك هم المضعفون صدق الله العظيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم ربنا ألهمنا رشدنا وأعذنا من شرور أنفسنا اللهم أرنا الحق حقا وارزقنا اتباعه وأرنا الباطل باطلا وارزقنا اجتنابه اللهم وفقنا لما تحب وترضى آمين يا رب العالمين. Dear brothers and sisters and sons and daughters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. As you know, the subject of my talk this evening is the system of economic justice in Islam. And this is actually a continuation of the talk that I gave last night. So we must recall some of the main items of last night's talk. First of all, we have to recollect what importance Quran assigns to this social justice, which faded away from the minds of the Muslim Ummah as a whole. Just remember the ayat. One of the holy names of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Al-Adl. Then his attribute, Qaimam bil-Qist. Then the sole purpose of the advent of messengers, sending down of the books. What is the sole purpose? لِيَقُومَ النَّاسُ بِالْقِسْطِ. And as a particular person, about Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, وَأُمِرْتُ لِأَعْدِلَ بَيْنَكُمْ. And the mission assigned to this ummah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina bil qist shuhada lillah. And in Surah Al-Ma'idah, Ya ayyuhalladhina amanu kunu qawwamina lillahi shuhada bil qist. Now these ayat, if we keep in our mind, they are very sufficient to know that this is the importance of this collective justice. You know, justice regarding some disputes between individuals. There are disputes, some injustice is done to some person by some other person, and now this case is to be adjudicated by the judiciary. For that the term of Quran is different. Hukum bima anzalallah. This is the term of Quran. وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْكَافِرُونَ وَمَنْ لَمْ يَحْكُمْ بِمَا أَنزَلَ اللَّهُ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الْفَاسِقُونَ فَأُولَٰئِكَ هُمُ الظَّالِمُونَ. So, hukum bayn al-nas bil-Quran. All the disputes that erupt between human individuals, they have to be decided according to the Sharia of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and His Messenger. So that is a different issue. This word adl and qist and wazn, as I discussed last night, they refer to the collective system of justice. The just politico-socio-economic order. Now, as I told last night, this concept of collective justice, justice at the politico-socio-economic level, it faded away in the minds of the Muslims. And the reason why? When monarchy was established after the end of the pious caliphate, Khilafat-e-Rashida, now the system changed into monarchy. Imperialism, as Allama Iqbal calls it, the Arab imperialism. And this Arab imperialism suppressed, we can't say, either willfully, consciously or unconsciously, but the outcome was suppression of certain aspects of the teachings of our deen, and those aspects relate to the political system. The republican nature of the Islamic State was suppressed because now it was going to be a dynasty, it was going to be a kingship, one has to inherit from his father, and so on and so forth. So that republican nature, as I quoted Allama Iqbal last night, he says that the republican nature of government is not only thoroughly consistent with the spirit of Islam, it has also become important and essential when we keep in view the new forces that have come into play now in the modern time in the Muslim world. So that republican nature, amruhum shura bainahum, that was suppressed. And now there was authoritative rule. But the second aspect, that was the suppression of the economic system of Islam. And that was the most important aspect. Because you know the kingship, the royalty, that needs wealth. They have to build palaces. They have to raise armies. They must have their bodyguards, and so forth, and so on. So they need wealth. And how to get that wealth? Now that Baitul Mal became the personal property of the rulers. And some other changes also happened, which I will discuss inshallah in detail today. So now, also please recall, it's very famous and very basic to note this hadith of Abu Hurairah radiyallahu anhu. Hafiztu bin Rasulillahi sallallahu alayhi wa sallama wi'a'ain. I collected the knowledge that I got from the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam in two pitchers. فَأَمَّا أَحَدُهُمَا فَبَسَطْتُهُ فِيكُمْ. Out of one of those pitchers, I have disseminated and distributed the knowledge amongst you. أَمَّا الْآخَرْ لَوْ بَسَطْتُهُ. But as for the second one, if I distribute that knowledge and publish it, and I distribute it among you, لَقُطِعَ هَذَا الْبُلْعُومِ. This neck will be cut. Why? Because these teachings of the Prophet ﷺ, if they were made known to the public in the days of this monarchy, that could not be tolerated by the monarchy. The living example today is the Saudi Arabian government. They can't tolerate this type of, talk or sermon. You can go on giving the lessons regarding tahara and wuzu and ghusl and so on and so forth, and the issues regarding Sawm, and the nisab of zakah, and so on and so forth, about the modes of worship, about the dogma. Well, these rulers, these kings didn't need to make any changes regarding these things. But the political system and the economic system, they had to be changed to legitimize their own government, their own way of ruling the country. And now today we have to talk about the system of economic justice in Islam. And I think I need not say it, that this is the most important aspect of the three. This, at the level of this society, at the level of state, but at the level of the economic system. Because this is the most important issue for humanity and mankind during these modern times. As they say, man has now become an economic animal. The biggest problem. And the state policies, they are governed by these issues, economic issues, issues of trade, these fiscal matters. The superpowers, they are, their policies are dictated by these things. So This is, I think, the most important aspect of the social justice of Islam. Now, the real beauty of this system and the main goal that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, I recited that part of the ayah from Surah Al-Hashr in the very beginning. Allah says, كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. This is the statement of objective resolution. What we are aiming at, it should not happen that the wealth remains circulating among the rich people of this society. There should be a more equitable distribution. Circulation of the wealth, circulation of what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has created for humanity in this world, there should be an equitable distribution. There should be a circulation throughout the society. Not that كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ, that this wealth becomes circulating only among the rich people. So the main goal is equitable and just distribution of wealth. Now, the very special beauty of this economic system of Islam is that Quran has given two sets of economic teachings, quite distinct from each other. Rather, maybe it may be said they are opposite to each other, contradicting each other. But there are two main sets. One set of teachings of the Quran regarding this economic system, we may call it at the level of spiritual level of ihsan, according to the hadith of the Prophet ﷺ. According to the hadith of Jibreel, akhbirni anil Islam, and then akhbirni anil Iman, and then akhbirni anil ihsan. The topmost level is ihsan, where religion becomes beautiful. The relationship between man and his Lord, it becomes a beautiful relationship, a bilateral relationship of mutual love, mutual help. In tansurullah yansurkum wa yusabbit aqdamakum. And mutually remembering each other. Fazkuruni azkurkum. Mutually coming together, nearer to each other. If you come to me walking, I will come to you running. If you remember me in your heart, I remember you in my heart. And if you mention me in some public meeting, I will mention you in a very high meeting, of the Mala'ul Ala, the angels of the highest order. There I will make mention of you. So this is a mutual bilateral relationship which Islam and Quran, for that matter, and Hadith, they term it as ihsan. Wallahu yuhibbul muhsinin. At the level of ihsan, and for general consumption, we may say at the spiritual level, there are four cardinal principles of the economic teachings of Quran. Number one, all ownership is for Allah. Man owns nothing. Total negation of human ownership of anything. What to speak of nationalized ownership? Neither individualized nor nationalized. All ownership belongs to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You are only the custodians, not the owners. Total negation of human ownership. Number two, whatever you get, by whichever method you get it, you are working in the field, you are working in some factory, you are working in some office, you are pursuing some profession, you are a doctor, engineer, whatever you get, don't think it is your earning. It is the gift of Allah. The word earning Quran uses for the evil or good deeds that you are performing. Laha ma kasabat wa alayha maktasabat. Kasb is whatever we are earning actually is for the hereafter. Either the good deeds we are earning as an asset for the hereafter, or the bad deeds we are gathering, which will be the cause of punishment in the hereafter. This is kasb. But whatever Allah gives you, although you have worked for it, but don't think that you have earned it. It's a gift. Fadl. And that is why it was Friday today, you know, and the ayat in Quran in Surah Al-Jumu'ah, when the Friday prayers are over, فَإِذَا قُضِيَتِ الصَّلَاةُ فَانْتَشِرُوا فِي الْأَرْضِ وَابْتَغُوا مِنْ فَضْلِ اللَّهِ وَاذْكُرُوا اللَّهَ كَثِيرًا لَعَلَّكُمْ تُفْلِحُونَ. This is fazl of Allah. What is fazl? Fazl is opposed to ajr and ujrah. If you have worked and you deserve an ajr or ujrat, this is your earning. What is fazl? You had hired a person for 100 rupees as a laborer for the whole day, but you felt that he worked, you know, with the depth, from the depth of his heart. He put in the maximum that he could. So in the evening you gave him 120 rupees instead of 100. 100 is ajr or ujra, his wage. And 20 rupees, that's the gift or the tip or whatsoever you may call it. This is fazl. Fazl is additional. So this is fazl, whatever you get. Because if you think I have earned it, the natural corollary and the natural, you know, logical result will be that you will think that I am free to do whatever I like with it. I have earned it. For example, it was the saying of the people of Hazrat Shoaib alayhi salam, أَوْ أَن نَفْعَلَ فِي أَمْوَالِنَا مَا نَشَاءُ. Oh Shoaib, what are you teaching? You think we cannot do among our wealth whatever we like to do? Well, this is our wealth, and we are entitled to do whatever we like. Because if you think you have earned it, then the result would be that you will claim that you should be free to do whatever you like with it. But if it is a gift, if it is you sort of trust, then you know you will have to see what is the liking or the disliking of whosoever has given you this trust or this amana. So number one was negation of human ownership, total negation. Lillahi ma fi samawati wa ma fil ard. All ownership of whatsoever is in the earth and whatsoever is in the heavens, that belongs to Allah. There's nothing for you to own. You are only custodians. Number two, whatever you get, by whichever method you might have got it, but what you get, it's a gift from Allah. It's fazl, not your kasb. Number three, out of this fazl of Allah, your legitimate right is only your needs. Needs. That's you have to fulfill from this. The rest is actually the right of those deprived people. And this has been placed by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your hands as a test, to test you, whether you give it away to those who are the rightful owners of this. وَفِي أَمْوَالِهِمْ حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. Although أَمْوَالِهِمْ, apparently they belong to them, they are their wealth. But حَقٌّ مَعْلُومٌ لِلسَّائِلِ وَالْمَحْرُومِ. Within this is the right of those people who are asking for some help or who are the mahrumin. You know, these two terms appear in Quran, mutrafin and mahrumin. People who have lot of wealth, mutrafin. And those who are in need, needy people, they are actually the mahrumin. As Quran uses those two words, al-mustakbirun wal-mustad'afun, at the political level, the oppressors and the oppressed, al-mustakbirun and al-mustad'afun. Now we have to obliterate this division of human society, division between al-mustakbirun and al-mustad'afun at the political level. This division between the al-mutrafun or al-mahrumun at the economic level. So that is the goal of the Islamic system of social justice. Number four, whatever is surplus with you, you have to give it away. And that is the proper way that you should adopt. يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلْ الْعَفْوَ. This is actually the surplus value of Islamic economics. The surplus value of Marxian, economics is something else. The surplus value here is that you are meeting your needs of daily life. there is some source of income for you. You are working somewhere, you are getting salary, but you are saving something. This saving is surplus. Now, what is the use of this surplus? At the top, give it away to the needy for the pleasure of Allah. This is ihsan, highest level. If you can't do it, if you don't have that courage, okay, give it for goodly loan to someone. Someone else, he is in a difficult position. He needs capital. He can work, but he is falling short of capital. You give this loan to him, so that he can start his business. And when it is in the running shape, he will take away that amount and give it back to you without any increase. The al-qarz hasana. This is the qarz al-hasana. And this is the second level. You have not given it up. It will come back to you, but not with any added interest or something, or any profit, any increase in it. The third thing is that if you want, although there is the system through which your needs are being met, and this is the saving, but if you have gone to the lowest level spiritually, and you want that this saving should also be made a means of earning more, number one, you shouldn't do it. If you have faith in Allah, that Allah will look to your needs tomorrow also. Why are you so much thoughtful about tomorrow? Allah will feed you. Just as Jesus Christ said in his Sermon of the Mount, why do you worry what will you eat tomorrow? Don't you see? Don't you look to the birds? They come out of their nests every morning, and when they return, their Lord has fed them. So, your Lord in the heaven, who feeds these birds, small birds, will he not feed you? But little faith you have actually. Why do you worry? What will you wear? You don't see these flowers in the field. They are wearing, the best colorful dress, these flowers. Who is dressing them? The Lord, who is dressing these small plants and the flowers on there. Will he not give you the dress to cover your body? But actually you don't have the faith. You don't have the confidence. You don't have the tawakkul on Allah. So actually, this making your saving a means to earn more is deplorable in the eyes of Quran, in the eyes of Islam. The best is give it away. That is the best. يَسْأَلُونَكَ مَاذَا يُنْفِقُونَ قُلِ اللَّهُ. If you can't go to that height, okay, give it for some goodly loan without any interest. Allama Iqbal says, Az riba akhir chami zaid fitan kas na danad lazzate qarz hasan. Qarz hasana. It has a pleasure in itself. When you have given your money and wealth to somebody so that he can start his business and he can make it a running affair, and then he returns you, it has a spiritual delight that you can get from it. Kasna danat lazzate qarz hasan. Number third, if you are at the lowest level, that you want to make this saving of yours a means to earn more, the only door open is mudarabah. What is mudarabah? There is some brother of yours who can work, who can engage himself in trade, but he doesn't have the capital. You have this surplus with you, and you are engaged somewhere else. You are serving somewhere or so forth, or you are working in the fields, and now this surplus has accumulated with you. So now you give it to that person. In this muzaraba, the essential condition is that if there is loss, it will be borne exclusively by you, not the worker. The worker will have the protection. The loss will have to be incurred by the capital. But if there is some gain, some profits, you can distribute. You can get some part of that profit. This is muzarba. Now, if you sink to a lower level, this is ahramul haram, the biggest haram in Islam, that is riba. You want to make this surplus a means to attract more money without working. And you want that money should make money. And this riba or interest, there's nothing more haram in Islam. In the dogma, shirk. Inna Allah la yaghfiru yushraka bih wa yaghfiru ma duna dhalika liman yasha. But in actual deeds and actions, this interest, this riba, is the biggest haram. As we find in Quran. If you don't give it up, then there is an ultimatum to you from Allah and His Messenger. Ultimatum of war. فَأَذَنُوا بِحَرْبٍ مِّنَ اللَّهِ وَرَسُولِهِ. If you don't give it up. And this ultimatum doesn't come in Quran regarding any other sin. So this is, in no way it is permissible. So that is the way of this surplus value in Quranic philosophy, economic philosophy. Now come the second set of the teachings of Quran. At the legal level, that was at the level of ihsan. And now we are discussing the level of Islam, legal level. At the legal level, the economic teachings of Quran can be interpreted as a capitalistic system, but controlled capitalism and internally managed capitalism. What are the principles of this capitalism? As you know, as I said in the Juma sermon also today, these people, you know, in the West, they are rejoicing, boasting. The death of communism has proved that our system is the best. This is closest to human nature. There is no higher up, no system better than this. It has been proved once for all. They are very happy. But actually, this system, this capitalism, because it keeps in view certain weaknesses of human nature. What happened in communism? Those weaknesses of human nature. Now let me explain here, human nature, because in English I have only one word, nature. But in Arabic, we have two. Fitrah, nature. Fitrat, which we call in Urdu fitrat, fitrah. And the khilqat, khilqa. One aspect of our nature is the nature of the animal being of man. The animal aspect of our existence. We can call it khilqat. In Persian, sarisht. But fitrah, nature, that is pertaining to the spirit, to the spiritual existence of human being. So when I use the word nature, it is meaning khilqat. And Quran itself says, as regards the spiritual aspect of human being, it is higher than the highest. وَالتِّينِ وَالزَّيْتُونِ وَطُورِ سِينِينَ وَهَذَا الْبَلَدِ الْأَمِينَ لَقَدْ خَلَقْنَا الْإِنسَانَ فِي أَحْسَنِ تَقْوِيمٍ. Ahsan, superlative degree, ahsan taqweem. Higher than the highest, higher than the angels. All the angels were made to prostrate before Adam alayhi salatu wasalam. All of them. فَسَجَدَ الْمَلَائِكَةُ كُلُّهُمْ أَجْمَعُونَ. No exception among the angels. That Iblis was not an angel, he was from the jinns. كَانَ مِنَ الْجِنِّ فَفَسَقَ عَنْ أَمْرِ رَبِّهِ. We have it in Surah Al-Kahf. So this aspect is higher than the highest. But then ثُمَّ رَدَدْنَاهُ أَسْفَلَ سَافِلِينَ. Lower than the lowest. And this is our animal aspect. Lower than the lowest. And this khilqat, Quran says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. There are aspects of weakness in his creation. This creation, this animal aspect of our creation. خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ مِنْ عَجَلٍ. Man has been created out of, hastiness. You want everything should happen, immediately. with haste. And this is inherent in the animal nature or the basal nature of the human beings. So these are some aspects of the basal nature of human being, that if you own something, you will try to make it better and better, to develop it, so that, and you will work hard. If you feel this is my shop, I am the owner, I'll work. And if I work harder and harder, I will earn more and more. And then I'll possess it. It will be my wealth. Now you will work harder and harder and harder. But when in communism it was accepted that all means of production are taken away from individual ownership, private ownership, it's all nationalized. You work and you will get what you need. Now why should I work harder? Why should I, keep awake during the night? What happened to our industries in Pakistan after nationalization? In Bhutto era, what happened? Everything was destroyed. Why? Because if one is the owner of that mill or factory, and he knows that there is something wrong with that machine and the factory will not be able to work tomorrow, and the labor will come, the overhead will be charged, but there will be no outcome. So he will keep awake the whole night and will get the repair done so that the machine can work tomorrow morning. But if you are the manager, Saab, well, you will sleep, go to sleep. What do you? If it doesn't work tomorrow, let it be. That is why all the industries, went to dogs and they were shattered. And that is what happened to communism. When this personal ownership went away, the incentive to work more went away. To work harder to improve your products went away. Production decreased, and that became the reason of the fall of communism. The wheat growing area in the USSR was much, much more than the area here in USA. But USA was exporting, they were importing. Why? Why the people should work over there? So now Islam at the legal level, now, it retains all these things. Private ownership. You can own a factory, you can own a field, a farm, you can own a shop, you are the owner. Work, go ahead, work harder and harder. Then the incentive to work is there. Then competition. You want to sell your product, you must improve it. The neighbor, the other shopkeeper is also selling it. So you have to be lower in price for competition. And you have to improve your product. All these things, these basic weaknesses of human nature. This is not the higher nature of man. This is the lower nature of man. But these weaknesses are there. Quran says, خُلِقَ الْإِنسَانُ ضَعِيفًا. Man has been created weak. These are the weaknesses of that basal nature of human beings. And Quran caters for these aspects, okay? You can own this, private ownership, personal incentive, market economy, demand and supply. If the demand is more, supply is less, let the prices go high. There should be no artificial controls. If the demand is low, supply is more, well, the prices will fall. There should be the natural forces, market forces, the hire and fire. You want to employ a person, and you have settled with him, this is going to be the remuneration, but then you find he is not working to your satisfaction. You should be allowed to fire him, just as you had the authority to hire him. All these principles of this Western capitalism are present at the legal level in Islam. And that way, Islamic economics can compete the Western economics. But there are two things. One thing is common between the Western capitalistic system and the Islamic capitalistic system at the legal level. That is internal management. When there is free economy, free competition, the inevitable result is that some people will go ahead, some will remain behind. So there must be some arrangement of feedback. The gap between the haves and the have-nots, the gap between those who have crossed that limit. And Quran, Islam has given a fixed limit, nisab, which we call. People who are above this nisab, they become the donors. Who are below that, they become the recipients. And a feedback, so that this gap doesn't increase. This system has been adopted, and this is called the internal management of capitalism. You have welfare over here, the unemployment allowance in England, the welfare in the Scandinavian countries, highest level of welfare you find in the Scandinavian countries. So, but this is the internal management of capitalism. We have that internal management of capitalism through zakat. But there are two very fundamental differences between these. Zakat on the one hand and this welfare system of the West on the other hand, I will discuss later. But this is common, so to say, essentially, basically it is common. That at the legal level, Islamic teachings regarding economic system, they resemble capitalism. They have all the positive points of capitalism. The private ownership, the personal incentive, the market forces, the hire and fire and these departments, everything is there. But internal management, which is common between the West and Islam, although there is a world of difference between the two, but essentially this is common. But the thing which is exclusive in Islam is the control of capitalism. So that capital should come in play. There should be sarmaya kari. The sarmaya, the capital, should come in the field and play an active role. But it should not be sarmaya dari. It shouldn't become so important, so forceful as to govern the whole system. So you have to change this jinni, this capitalism. This capital is a jinni, and it must be changed. As we know that the jinns who were serving Hazrat Sulaiman alayhi salatu wasalam, they were, tied up in chains of iron. So you have to change it. Otherwise this capital is the biggest jinni, and it covers the whole, So actually, that is the number one riba, haram. Capital earning by itself, without labor, haram. There are certain forms of capital which are allowed earning without labor. I will talk about them later on. But essentially, capital only as capital to be taken as earning agent, haram. So, what we say in Urdu, paisa paise ko khinchta hai, rupiya rupiya ko khinchta hai, that is obstructed here. Work with it, go ahead. Your labor should be put in, that you gain, whatever you have, you can get. But riba, earning only on the basis of your capital, is haram. Number two, speculation, gambling, haram. Earning only on the basis of chance. What is gambling? Chance only. No labor. And mainly, there's no, intellectual input also. It's mere chance, gambling. Both these things. Although in any proposition, economic proposition, there must be capital, there must be labor. Then a third element also remains there, chance. At one time, the same labor, same amount of capital, same labor produces some other results. On other occasions, the same labor and same amount of capital, they produce a different result. And that is the factor of chance. But earning only on the basis of chance is haram mutlaq, maisir. Earning only on the basis of capital is haram mutlaq. What is permissible? One thing I have told you already, muzarba. In muzarba also, somebody is not working. He has given his capital to a person who is working. But here, it has been compensated. By what? By the fact that if there is loss, you will bear the whole loss. The worker will bear no loss whatsoever. The rights of the worker are protected. The whole loss will be borne by the capitalist. So this way it is compensated. And there is another form in which we may say that the capital is earning only as capital without labor. And that is, well, you have built a house and you have rented it out. Now, people say, if I give 1 million rupees to somebody and I say, give me 1,000 rupees every month, you say it is haram. But if I have built a house of 1 million rupees and I rent it out for 2,000 rupees per month, you say it is halal. It is halal, no doubt. What's the difference? Well, this is fluid capital. If you give 10 lakhs of rupees, 1 million rupees to a person, it is fluid capital. It can increase, it can decrease. Maybe it becomes half. Maybe it is doubled. But the house, it is fixed form of capital. What will the person get out of it? He will live here for 1 month. For this fixed benefit that he had taken out of this house of yours, he is paying a fixed rent. But because of that cash, there are so many possibilities. He might have been earning, he might have been losing. And you say, no, I have to get my pound of flesh. That has to come to me anyhow. Well, this is absolutely illogical. So some forms in which we may say, somebody can say, that here only the capital has become an agent of earning. But there are basic differences. Basically, the principle remains that capital as capital, it is not an earning agent, without labor. And chance, mere chance being the basis of earning is haram. These two things, they limit the activity of capital, which I said, it is as if we have chained this genie. You let it work in the field, but you keep it chained. And that is the beauty of Islamic economic system. Now about this riba of cash, and then there is riba of land. One thing we must remember, that the ayat which declared the abolition of riba, final abolition, they were revealed in the 9th year after Hijrah. And after that, there was very little time for the Prophet ﷺ to tell in detail the Muslims which transactions include riba and involve riba. That is why we find the hadith, the asr of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala anhu, that the Prophet died and we couldn't understand the whole implications where this riba is involved. So the inference that he derived out of it was, فَدَعُوا الرِّبَا وَالرِّيبَا. So you give up riba and everything where there is a doubt of riba. Maybe it's not 100% riba, but there is some element of riba included here. Some doubt. Give it up. It is so wicked a thing, so bad, that this doubt, don't take the benefit of doubt. Rather, this doubt should be, the result of this should be that you give that also, which is not definitely riba, but there is some possibility of involvement of riba in that. But what we did, under the influence of the kings, we allowed certain transactions which became the basis of riba. First of all, there came the issue of the riba of land. Land belongs to me. You are the cultivator, the peasant, and the crop we shall divide. What is it? It is not muzaraba. Because if the crop fails, the capital, the land is there. No damage has been done to the land. The total loss is to the cultivator. So the qiyas is not of mudarba, it is sood, it is riba, haram. And that is the hadith of Rafi ibn Khadij radiyallahu ta'ala anhu. He was a muhajir. The Prophet one day, he came from outside Medina, and in the outskirts of Medina al-Munawwara, he found in a field, Rafi ibn Khadij was working in the field, in the farm. He said, how come? How come you here? You are a muhajir, how are you working in this farm? He replied, the land belongs to such and such Ansari. I'll work on it. And we have decided that we shall divide the crop amongst ourselves. Now, prepare for the shock. The judgment of the Prophet was, قَدْ أَرْبَيْتُمَا. You have involved yourself in a transaction of riba. رُدَّ الْأَرْضَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا. You give back this land to the people who own it. خُذْ مِنْهُمْ مَا أَنْفَقْتَ. Take from them whatever you have spent. You have spent something on seed and something, maybe on manure or something, fertilizer or whatsoever. Whatsoever you have spent, take it from them. And رُدَّ الْأَرْضَ إِلَىٰ أَهْلِهَا. This transaction is riba. So this absentee landlordism was declared to be riba by Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And that is why Imam Abu Hanifa declares it to be haram. Haram mutlaq. Imam Malik declares it to be haram, absolute haram. Imam Shafi'i rahimahullah, he softened his position a bit. He said that it is haram in the open field, open farm. But if there is some cultivation in a garden, well, there it can be, sharecropping can be, or crop sharing can be done. Then Imam Ahmed ibn Hanbal gave a decree that it is halal, it is permissible. And on the other hand, the two disciples of Imam Abu Hanifa, Qazi Abu Yusuf or Imam Muhammad, rahimahumullah, they gave the decree that this muzara is halal. After, prescribing some conditions. Seed should be provided by the owner of the land so that if the crop is destroyed, he also sustains some loss. So these are the additional conditions that they have laid down. But essentially they decreed and they gave the fatwa that this is halal. Why it happened, I will discuss later. The reason why, we shall have to understand. What happened? What happened when the big countries, Iran, Iraq, Sham, and Egypt, and they go to constitute, as you know, what we call the fertile crescent of the Middle East. When during the caliphate of Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, when these countries were conquered by the Muslims, the question arose, what about the lands of these countries? The people who are living in these countries. Some of the Sahaba, they said, they are all Mali Ghanima. And the rule of Mali Ghanima, Ghanaim, that is, the decree of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is in Surah Al-Anfal. 1/5 can be retained for the treasury, for the state. 4/5 have to be distributed among the people who fought. So they claim, now divide this, all these countries, these lands between us. The biggest feudal system of the human history would have started. Only a few thousand Muslims. It was a miracle, these conquests. A few thousand Muslims. They conquered Iran and Iraq and Sham and Egypt. They were not in lakhs or 100,000s, or millions. So now, had it been accepted by Umar radiallahu anhu, then the biggest and the worst form of feudal system would have started. Hazrat Umar said, the first ayah that I quoted, كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ in Surah Al-Hashr. In Surah Al-Hashr we find the instructions of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala regarding amwal fay. Whatever you get, the Muslims get from the non-Muslims, from the kuffar, without fighting. This is fay. And this fay is wholly, solely, exclusively for the treasury, for the Muslim ummah, for the state, and nobody has any personal portion in it. Hazrat Umar said it is fay. And Male Ghanima will only be those things which we will get on the battleground. On the battleground, battlefield. Whatever you got, you may have got swords and spears and so on and so forth, and you know, goats and sheep and horses and camels and so on and so forth, and maybe the POWs, they can be taken as slaves. So this is Male Ghanima, on the site of the battle. But the whole country is not Male Ghanima. This is Male Fay. And this will remain in the custody of these people. The Romans in Syria, and the Coptics in Egypt, and the Majusis, you know, in Iran, they will retain it. They will work on it, and they will pay kharaj to the treasury of the Muslim Ummah. And this kharaj will be used for the welfare of the whole Ummah. It will be distributed among the whole Ummah. So that is actually, that belongs to the whole Ummah, not to those people who took part in that fighting. So there was a disagreement and much argument from both sides. There were, you know, senior Sahaba on this side also who claimed that this is Male Ghanima. But Hazrat Umar had his arguments. Then a committee was formed. 5 companions of the Prophet from Aus, the tribe of Aus. 5 from the tribe of Khazraj. And they looked into the matter. They listened to the arguments of Hazrat Umar, radiyallahu ta'ala an, and the arguments of those other people who were claiming that all this is Male Ghanima, this should be distributed amongst us. And then they decided that the opinion of Hazrat Umar is correct. On that basis, a rule was formulated forever. And that is, if any land is conquered by Muslims at any time in history, the lands of that country will be kharaji. They will not belong to any one person, any individuals. But those people who accept Islam without fighting, Muslims have not conquered it, those people, their lands will belong to them. And they are called ushri. They will pay ushr out of it. Because, just as we have the example of Medina, Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam didn't conquer Medina. The people from Medina, they accepted Islam without fighting. And then they went. And after the Bay'ah of Aqaba Saniya, they invited Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to come to Medina. So, the lands in Medina were ushri, were owned by the individuals, and only ushr, 1/10 of the total produce, or 1/20th. This is to be given as zakat, and the rest is yours. But the lands, the countries which have been conquered by the Muslims, the lands will be kharaji. And those people who are working before, they will continue working over there. But they will pay kharaj, maybe 50% of the produce. That will go straight to the Baitul Mal of the Islamic State. And that will be used for the defense purposes, for the purposes of common welfare, etc., etc. But now what happened when monarchy was established? As you know, monarchy has its own feet. And the feet of the monarchy are the feudal lords. The 10,000 mansabdar and 5,000 mansabdar or 20,000 mansabdar or 30,000 mansabdar of the Mughal Empire, we know it. The barons and lords of Europe, they are the feet of monarchy. And when you have given big lands to them, they can't cultivate it themselves. For that you need absentee landlordism. So when the so-called Khulafa of Banu Umayyah and the so-called Khulafa of Banu Abbas, they gave, jagirs, big land holdings to people, who were supporting them. Now it was the need of the time that the absentee landlordism and muzara and crop sharing should be declared as permissible. That was the dictate of the time. That was the rule of necessity. Just we have in Pakistan, when martial law is established, what can the judiciary do? What can the Supreme Court do? Except saying that please, in 90 days, please, you go back. But these 90 days can become 900 days, 9,000 days. What can the judiciary do when they have come? Just as Justice Rustam Kiani, when the first martial law was established in Pakistan by Ayub Khan, and there was very silence and fear in the atmosphere, in the air, and nobody dared to speak anything. But the first person who started speaking something was Justice Rustam Kiani. And at one speech he said, misfortunes never come alone, but this time they have come in battalions. So this is how, the atmosphere opened up, that people started saying something. So when army comes, what can the judiciary do? When the kingship was established, what could the fuqaha do? Except to legitimize it, lessening the evil side of it as much as is possible. And that is what Qazi Abu Yusuf Imam Muhammad said. They added conditions. The seed should also be given by the landowner, landlord. So these are the additional conditions. So whatever they could do, they did with the best of intentions. But this system now that was accepted by the Muslim Ummah, as if honey and Maria, it is halal, absolutely halal. And mazara, whatever you are earning through this, there's no doubt, iota of a doubt in it. No, it is wrong. Imam Abu Hanifa says it is haram mutlaq. Imam Malik says it is haram mutlaq. And this is the biggest problem in Pakistan today, this feudalism. And this feudalism cannot be rooted out through fiqh. Please note it. These fiqh, schools of fiqh, when they were established in the days of monarchy. Under this pressure, under this roof. Well, after the end of the past caliphate, a few attempts were made to restore the caliphate and to obstruct this corruption of the caliphate into monarchy. Hussain ibn Ali radiallahu anhuma came in the field. He laid down his life and the life of so many of his close relations, but failed. Abdullah ibn Zubayr came in the field, but failed. Imam Zaid came in the field, but failed. Hassan Zakiyah came in the field, failed. Then it was decided we have to live under this roof. There's no alternative. This will remain now. We have to accommodate ourselves, keeping in view that this roof is going to be here. Under that, these things have to be accommodated. So the fiqh that was edited under those conditions, and they legitimize all these things, like Jagirdari and Zamindari and so on and so forth. What happened in Pakistan is more sad. We have a very big authority of the last century, Qazi Sanaullah Panipati rahimahullah. He was a mufassir, muhaddis, faqih, mufti, qazi, and a murshid. He was the khalifa of a very big murshid. And he wrote a book, Ma la Buddha minhu. The absolutely inevitable knowledge about fiqh that every Muslim should possess. Ma la Buddha minhu. Inescapable. This much amount of fiqh every Muslim must know. And this book is taught even today in nearly all the Hanafi schools and madrasas, whether they are of Brelvi school of thought or of Deobandi school of thought. This Mala Buddha Midho is a part of the curriculum. In that book, Qazi Sanaullah Panipati has clearly said that throughout India, there are no ushri lands whatsoever. all are kharaji. Therefore, I am not putting here the details of the rules of Ushr. Why? Why to burden the minds of these pupils and the students when they are not applicable? The rules of Ushr, because there is no Ushri land here. It's all kharaji land. But Maulana Mufti Muhammad Shafi, he wrote a book and he said, no, Pakistan's lands are Ushri. What does it mean? Ushri Zameen, Ushri land is owned by the person. And you cannot take anything from a person who is the rightful owner. Either you buy it from him, or he gives it as a gift, voluntary gift. You can't take it forcibly. That is why the son of Maulana Mufti Muhammad Shafi rahimahullah, Mufti Taqi Usmani, sitting as a judge in the appellate bench of the Federal Sharia, of the Supreme Court, Federal Shariat appellate bench of Supreme Court, he has given the verdict, no land can be taken back from the landowners in Pakistan. And it has closed the doors permanently for any further land reforms, as if this system of Jagirdari has been granted, a certificate, permanent certificate that it will remain here. You can't take from them. They are the owners. And this is based on this mistake, primary mistake. These lands are kharaji, and kharaji are not owned by any person. It was an arrangement which was made during the Mughal period, or then an arrangement came during the British period. Well, whatsoever they have done, okay. But now we can have an absolutely new land settlement in Pakistan on the basis of the ijtihad of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, that these lands which were conquered by the Muslims, they belong to the Muslim Ummah as a whole. They are not the personal property of any individuals. These are kharaji land. And if they are kharaji, we can have an absolutely new settlement of land in Pakistan. But this cannot be done through fiqh. You will have to rise above fiqh. For that, a total revolution is necessary. Whatever is going on in Pakistan up till now, we have some progress in the constitution. First of all, there was the objective resolution passed on 12th of March 1949. Well, it was a miracle. In the era when secularism is the order of the day, throughout the world, secularism, and the representative assembly of more than 100 million people, they say, we wash our hands off the claim to sovereignty. Sovereignty belongs to God. All the authority that we have is a sacred trust in our hands. And this authority can be used only within the limits prescribed by the real sovereign. This is La ilaha illallah at the political level. Then there was in 1973 constitution, no legislation can be done here repugnant to the Quran and the Sunnah. Now, after that, Ziaul Haq, he established the Federal Shariat Court. But there were lacunae. These all things were, without any real, actual effect and influence. They were not effective. Now, Nawaz Sharif has come with an amendment. And that is, Quran and Sunnah are to be declared as the supreme law of Pakistan. But to this amendment, he has added certain things which are objectionable. So that is a controversy going in Pakistan. But what I want to say here is that even if this process reaches its culmination, and even if through this soft revolution, as some people have called it, it's a soft revolution without bloodshed, without any anarchy and so on and so forth. So this is the soft revolution which will happen if this process reaches its completion. But if it reaches its completion, even then, these problems will not be soluble. They won't be solved because you can't go beyond fiqh, just as in Iran. They could not go beyond the fiqh Jafri. That is why they couldn't make any fundamental change in the economic system. And that is the failure of the revolution. Same way, the Taliban in Afghanistan, they can't go beyond the fiqh of the school of Abu Hanifa, rahimahullah. And there, as I told you, these things, they have been legitimized. So this Jagirdari and feudalism, that will remain. But to abolish these things, we need not a cold or soft, but a hard revolution and a hot revolution. What will be the process of that revolution? That I'll discuss tomorrow, inshallah. But let me discuss the other aspect also. Under this fiqh, the riba on cash, the riba on land, the absentee landlordism, riba on land, about which Allama Iqbal has very beautifully said. खुदा आ मिल्लत तेरा सरवरी दाद के तकदीरश बदस्ते खेश बिनवश्त. Allah gives glory to that nation, the people of which nation they write their destiny with their own hands, they work with their own hands. Baha qawme sarokare na darat. Allah has no connection whatsoever with that nation, those people, dehqanash baraye digra kasht, whose farmer is cultivating the land for somebody else, not for himself. His sweat and blood. But the produce, the lion's share will go to the zamindar, to the landlord, to the jagirdar. And maybe his, children are hungry. And the children of those jagirdars and landlords, they have, they are in all luxuries. What to speak of their children? Their dogs, just as we heard just now. That how come Allah doesn't love me when my dog has an air-conditioned, dog house? So these things, they have it. So this zulm, this can be established only through a total revolution, not a revolution which is coming through fiqh. This fiqh, which was under the influence of the kings, in the era when this imperialism had taken deep roots in the Muslim society. Now the same thing has happened to the riba on cash. Two transactions were declared as permissible and mubah and jais. Number one, if you buy this glass cash, it's for $2, for example. But if you pay after 1 month, it will be $2.50. What is it? Is it not riba? What does the common sense say? It is riba. But this is called in fiqh bay' muajjal, and they have declared it to be legal, permissible. Another thing, bay' murabaha. We agree among ourselves. You are the seller, I am the purchaser. I agree. Well, I give you 10% profit. Whatever you have spent on this thing, you charge 10% and I'll pay you. This is bay' murabaha. Ribh means profit. Murabaha, bab mufa'ala, mutual consent about the profit. This is bay' murabaha. But this bay' murabaha was due to what? Supposedly I have to purchase something, but I don't have time to go to the market, see the shops, and compare the prices, etc., etc. I rely on a person, on a shopkeeper, and I say, okay, you have purchased it, and it's your right that you must have some profit over it. I grant you 5% or 10%, and you tell me, and I'll pay you. Okay. It's logical, it's correct. But now on the basis of this bay' murabaha and bay' muajjal, the whole so-called Islamic banking system is being evolved. All interest. But the labels have been changed. You go to the bank, previously you used to have so many millions, in loan, so that I can go and purchase the machinery for that factory or mill. And this much percentage of interest I'll pay. Now you go to the bank, I need that machinery, okay, we shall purchase it for you. And you agree to 10%, 20% increase? Oh, yes. Okay, this is halal. Well, the agreement is there also. When you take some loan from the bank, you agree to it. So agreement is nothing. But there it was your own money, not on credit. You were not purchasing on credit. Here you have no money. The money is being used of the bank. The bank is purchasing it out of its own money. And now you will have to pay, and you will have to add so many percent to this. And this is interest. Only you have changed the names and nothing else. This whole banking system, the so-called Islamic banking system, is based on these two propositions of Bai' Muajjal and Bai' Murabaha. To eradicate this riba from the total economic system, you need a revolution, a total revolution, which can revolutionize the settlement of land also, which has to revolutionize the thinking attitudes also, the values of the people also. The thinking and the value structure of the people must be changed. And then only a total revolution can be brought about. And then not only this way of thinking has to be changed, but people should be ready to lay down their lives, to sacrifice everything. And then a total revolution is brought about. And then you can eradicate this riba, whole and soul, 100% eradication. Without this, it is only labeling, differently. This is profit and loss account. What is profit and loss account? Nothing but riba. This is markup. What is markup? Nothing but riba. What are these, sale on installments? Nothing but riba. Rather, the percentage of riba in these propositions is more than the normal rate of interest of the banks. This is what is happening actually. So, till such time that these practices are going on, the dream of social justice at economic level is impossible. The division of the society between the haves and the have-nots will remain there. The richer will grow richer and richer, and the poor will grow poorer and poorer. At the global level, what is happening? IMF and World Bank, and it's only 225 years old story. Even Europe, riba and interest was haram before 1778. The Jews got the permission of this interest for the first time in 1778. But within 100 years, they had, entangled the whole of the European powers in the tentacles, within the tentacles of this system of riba. To which, Allama Iqbal, when he visited Europe in 1905 to 1908, and then the observation was so acute and deep that he said, "Farang ki rage jahan panjaye Yahood mein hai." And it was due to this interest, the system of banking, and nothing else. The Rothschilds and all these big houses of money lenders, they are controlling the fate of humanity. They are controlling their sole supreme power on earth. It's a tool in their hands, nothing more than a tool. And whosoever, he might be the president or something else, whosoever refuses to play on their tune, he is reduced to non-entity in no time. He will go. And that is this system, zalimana istihsali, the most exploitative system, the most repressive system, today is coming to humanity at this economic level, through this interest and speculations. What is happening to the stock market? Speculations. Only one lever, one jerk of a lever, and the stock market goes down. And billions of dollars has, flowed from Indonesia to America, or from somewhere else to Malaysia to somewhere else. And it's only one jerk, nothing else. And that same jerk will one day, it will break away this United States of America into pieces. When the Jews come to the final decision that now the people of North America, the United States of America, they have become conscious of our designs. And now they are not going to play as puppet in our hands. One jerk of that lever, and that lever is in their hand. And that will be disastrous. one of the supreme powers on earth, which was much ahead of the United States of America in the, space technology. And there was no bread to be eaten. This happens just a few years back. And this can happen anywhere, at any time. But this is the system which Islam has given. Zero rate of interest. Then partnership, shiraka, muzaraba, the association, the basis of association which Islam has given. Now in the end, as I told you, that I'll discuss what is the difference between the internal management in Islam of the capitalism and the internal management of this Western capitalistic system. First of all, the difference. For this welfare, you get money through taxes. For that welfare in Islam, you get money through zakat. And zakat is a mode of worship. It's not a tax. There's a world of difference between the mental attitude of a person. When he is giving zakat, he is giving the right of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not due to the force of some state and some legislation and some government which has fixed the rate. And that is why it must be understood that the rate and shara of zakat should remain the same as decided by the Prophet. Because it is a mode of worship. It's an ibadah, not a tax. Just as we know the hadith, Sallu kama ra'aytumuni usalli. When you have to pray, you pray as you find me praying. You see me praying. So you have to pray like that. So ibadah is something else and tax is something else. So in this same way, the basis and the detailed rules of zakat have to be preserved, the same as were given by the Prophet ﷺ, because it is one of the ibadat. It's not a tax. And this makes the whole difference. And number two, when you are taking something from the welfare, you think it is your right. But the teaching of the Prophet ﷺ about zakat and sadaqat is asahun nas. This is the dirt of the people. Avoid it. Work with your own hands. A man came to him. I am very poor. Please help me somehow. And the Prophet saw he was, an able-bodied person. He said, if you have got something, anything. I don't have anything except a cup and except one, sheet of cloth, and that's all. Okay, bring these two. They were auctioned among the Sahaba. The amount that was received, half of it the Prophet gave to him. Give it to your family. They are ration for today. And with the remaining half, he brought, the X, what should we call the cutting, part. X, yes. And then he put the handle by his own hand in that. He said, go out and you bring wood for the people here and you sell the wood, firewood, and work. After a few days he came and he was well-to-do, self-sufficient. So avoid zakat. Don't take zakat. These are asaful nas. They are the dirt of the people. Why take it? Why not work? It's against your self-respect. That is something absolutely different. So we find, the tradition that during the caliphate of Hazrat Umar radiallahu ta'ala, people used to roam about with zakat they wanted to give to somebody. There was nobody to accept it. Primarily the reason was that this zakat was distributed mainly by the government itself, by the state. But here also, please, I think it's a proper time to give you two terms regarding zakat. The wealth on which zakat is to be levied can be divided into two types, just as the land, kharaji and ushri. The lands of Indonesia and Malaysia, they are ushri. They were not conquered by Muslims. But they accepted Islam due to some traders, Arab traders, or some awliya Allah and Sufis and so on and so forth. So their lands are ushri, not haraj. But the lands, the whole of Indian subcontinent, it was captured and it was conquered by sword. So they are kharaj. In the same way, the wealth on which zakat is to be levied is of two types. One is zahiri, amwal zahir, apparent. Well, this is the shop, this is the store, and goods worth 5 million are here. This is amwal zahir. This is the herd of the camels, 100 or 200 camels are present here. There is the herd of the goats or the sheep, so many sheep are here. They are amwal zahira. The zakat on this amwal zahira is taken and collected by the state, by the government, and forcibly, accounting everything. But somebody has something in his home, some cash, some ornaments, some jewelry, something of that sort, something he is keeping for any bad time. Well, these things are amwal batina. And the zakat of amwal batina is to be given by the individual himself. Well, the state is not going to search their houses, where you have kept anything, any cash, any jewelry or any ornaments, or gold or silver, no, nothing. Amwal batina, you pay zakat. If you like, you can pay to the government. If you like, you can pay to the people, needy people yourselves. Government has nothing to do with it. But amwal zahira, this zakat will be taken by and collected by the government. So there was the controversy in Pakistan when Ziaul Haq, he, established the system of zakat, which was a mockery of zakat actually. And it brought bad name to zakat. It didn't do any good to the people or to the country or to the deen itself, but it was a mockery of it. But there was a controversy that bank deposits, they are amwal batina or amwal zahira. The opinion of Maulana Mufti Mahmud, rahimahullah, he said they are amwal batina. And the state cannot forcibly deduct from those bank deposits the zakat that they are deducting. But the opinion of Maulana Mufti Taqi Usmani was that no, these are amwal zahira and the government is entitled. And during the heat of argument, when they were, arguing with each other in the madrasa of Binori town, in the heat of argument, he had the attack, Maulana Mufti Mahmud, heart attack, and he died on the spot. So these are two types of amwal. But the beauty in this internal management of Islamic economic system, although it resembles capitalism, all those positive points, positive regarding the basal nature, the animal nature of human beings, those conditions are fulfilled. But this internal management, that is a lot different from the internal management of the Western capitalism. And the most special and exclusive thing is this eradication of riba and gambling and speculation and rishwat also, bribing. وَلَا تَأْكُلُوا أَمْوَالَكُمْ بَيْنَكُمْ بِالْبَاطِلِ وَتُدْلُوا بِهَا إِلَى الْحُكَّامِ لِتَأْكُلُوا فَرِيقًا مِنْ أَمْوَالِ النَّاسِ بِالْإِثْمِ وَأَنْتُمْ تَعْلَمُونَ. Here also I want to rectify one mistake. We think Rashi is the person who is accepting bribe. No. According to Arabic language, Rashi is the person who is offering bribe. Murtashi is the person who is receiving the bribe. The person who is giving the bribe and offering the bribe, actually, he is more to blame. He is trying to corrupt that official to get some gains out of it. So this is also haram. So these are the basic principles of economic justice. The goal is كَيْ لَا يَكُونَ دُولَةً بَيْنَ الْأَغْنِيَاءِ مِنْكُمْ. And the other way, Allama Iqbal has enunciated, Kasna bashad dar jahan muhtaj kas, nuktae shar-e mubini nasto bas. No individual should have to ask any other individual for his need. Kasna bashad dar jahan muhtaj kas. Because it is the duty of the state, the system of caliphate, to underwrite all the basic necessities of the citizens. This is the duty of the state. As was enunciated by Hazrat Umar radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, that even if a dog dies of hunger in the Euphrates area or the Dajla area, Umar will be responsible on the Day of Judgment. this underwriting of the basic needs of all individuals, all human beings, all citizens, not only Muslims, even the Majusis, even the, what we call Zimmis, that was underwritten by this Islamic State. And that is, Allama Iqbal says, as I told you about absentee landlordism, about riba, he says, I find, none of the ulama, as far as I know, have that deep understanding of the wickedness of this riba and interest as Iqbal has. Because his first writing was on the economic system. He knew the importance of economics today. Az riba akhir chemi zaid fitan. From this Ummul Khabais riba, what can be born from the womb of this riba except fitna? Fitan. Kasnadanat lazzate qarze hasan. Nobody knows the pleasure and delight that you can derive from qarze hasan. You give a goodly loan to your fellow human being. Az riba ja tira, dil chu khishto sang. Due to this interest in riba, there is absolute darkness in the inner personality of people. Darkness, jatira, dark. Dil chu khishto sang. And the hearts become hard, like, these pebbles and stones and bricks. Admi darrinda be dandanu chang. And man becomes a wolf, although he doesn't have the teeth of the wolf and the paw of the wolf, but he becomes a wolf. And in the end, again, let me quote Iqbal. He says, Khaja's khune rage mazdoor sadab lale naab. Az jafaye deh khudaya, kishte dehkana kharab. Inqilab hai inqilab. The capitalist, he has distilled wine from the red blood flowing in the veins of the laborer. The wine that he is drinking in the evening, in the club, or sitting in his drawing room. Khaja as khune rage masdoor, sazan lale naab. Wherefrom has this red wine come? From the red blood of the veins and arteries of the laborer. Ar jafaye de khudaya, and due to this oppression and zulm of the landlords, landowners, jagirdars, kishte dehkana kharab. The condition of these farmers is very wicked, very bad, very worse. Inqilab, inqilab. All these conditions require and call for a total revolution. And how that total revolution can be brought about will be the subject of my talk, inshallah, tomorrow at 1:30 p.m. here at this very place. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم ولسائر المسلمين والمسلمات.
If there is already Khilafah in Iran or Afghanistan, are we obliged to go there, give bay'ah and help? Or is Khilafah not the end of Islamic revolution?
Khilafah would be the end of Islamic revolution, but the Islamic revolutions which have taken place in Iran and Afghanistan, there are limitations to it. In Iran, it's basically a Shia Islamic revolution. And they have established the superiority of the fiqh Jafri. In Afghanistan, the fiqh Hanafi is being established. To have a broader concept of Islam, which has the spirit of republicanism is also present in that. For that, the humanity has to wait. That time will come. And inshallah, in Pakistan, if we succeed in establishing Khilafah, it would be of that type.
Whatever you have said about Islamic revolution is directly related to the struggle by men. Please throw some light regarding the responsibilities by women for Islamic revolution.
Actually, there are 3 levels of the duties of Muslims, rather 4, comparable to the different parts of a three-storied building. There's the foundation, and it corresponds to Iman. This is absolutely equally common between men and women, to have Iman. Ya ayyuhallazina amanu, aminu billahi wa rasulihi. So this commandment, this imperative is for both the Muslim women and men, no difference. But then there are the four pillars of Salah and Zakah and Sawm and Hajj. But we find there starts some difference. For men, praying in the mosque. For women, in their homes. The difference has started. The social structure of Islam is showing it up. A man has to go for Hajj. But a woman, if she doesn't have a mahram to accompany her, she need not go. She can send somebody else for Hajj Badal. So there are now differences. Now when the first roof comes, da'wah, tabligh, amr bil ma'ruf, nahy anil munkar, ud'u ila sabili rabbik. Here the scope for women is limited. Their own families, their own relatives, the mahram mard, only mahram mard, not the la mahram mard. Males only those listed in Quran as mahram. And the females and the Muslim ladies, they can do dawah work. But for the males, the field is very broad and open. Come higher up, and that is now iqamat ad-deen, the actual struggle of this tasadum, this collision. Here the role assigned to women is indirect, not direct. They prepare their relatives, their sons for this. They make it easy for their husbands to engage in this struggle, to less and less put their own burden on them, take more and more duties about the offsprings, about the sons and daughters on their own shoulders, and leaving the males, free to work for this purpose. So that will be their indirect contribution to the act of iqamatuddin. And when it comes to war, well, they are not obliged to go to war. So there are slight differences, but basically the structure is the same.
Is the propagation of the ideology directed toward Muslims only or everyone? Meaning, do we call non-Muslims directly to the ideology?
Yes, surely. If we have the uswa of Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he was calling the non-Muslims the kuffar. And if you have to work here in America, you have to engage with them. That is a must, and that you must do.
I think we have some questions, but because of shortage of time, because of Salatul Asr time, it's already 3:45. We'll break and we'll thank Dr. for his illustrious lecture. Assalamu alaikum.